Hello, everyone, and welcome to Around South Jersey. I have a wonderful gentleman with me tonight, Serge Brunner, who is the CEO, Chief Operating Officer, President, everything for
at
Espoma
one
Company.
time, but now I'm Chairman of the Board.
Okay, well, that's a great thing. In fact, we'll talk about the board, too, as well. The beautiful building you see behind us, Serge, that was just built, what, 5-6 years ago?
Exactly. Yeah, that's our new office building. We're very proud of it.
Beautiful building.
Wanted to make a statement to the success and length of the service the company has provided to our customers. We didn't want to just have an ordinary building. We wanted to have an outstanding building.
Yeah, it is. It's a beautiful, and you had my favorite architect draw it up, John Peterson, right?
Yeah, and we had great builders with Ogren Construction.
They do a great job. They really do, and you can see what a great job they did there as well. So before we talk about Espoma Company and the years it started and all the people, I was shocked when we had on Facebook or on our station or something talking about you, and all these wrestling people came forward. I did not know you were a great wrestler. So tell us about, you grew up in Vineland, right?
Yes.
And then you went to Vineland High?
Yes, went to Vineland High. Started wrestling because I had a science teacher who needed a lightweight, and I was scrawny. So he grabbed me one day after science class and took me down to the wrestling room and introduced me to the sport, and it caught on. So I ended up wrestling in high school and in college.
Where'd you go to college, sir?
I went to Brown University and captained the wrestling team there.
Wow. Congratulations. That's super.
Well, thank you. Yeah, so it was good for me, and then I never dreamed that it would go generations beyond me. So when I came back, my best friend, Nick Melfi,
I knew Nick.
Son was wrestling for Millville Junior Wrestling, and he introduced me to Will Goodwin, and he wanted me to coach because he knew I had college experience. So I told my son, if I'm going to be coaching, you're coming along with me. So my son ended up wrestling and doing fantastic. And
now, was he lightweight like you, Jeremy?
Yes.
Jeremy's your son, right?
Yes. He was a lightweight like me, 2-time state placer in New Jersey,
That's
and then
fantastic.
went to Cornell.
Oh, wow.
And then my grandson, Jeremy's son, ended up following in our footsteps, and he was a 3-time state placer.
Wow,
and he's following in my footsteps. He's now on the wrestling team at Brown University.
Oh,
so
that's fantastic.
Very proud of our tradition there.
Well, the Bruners are everywhere up there. That's great.
And I got to coach a lot of great kids from Millville when we were with the Millville Juniors. So. I had Mark Saul, Toby Fagan, Doug Tenbrook, Nick Melfi. It was a lot of fun.
You had some great wrestlers there too.
Yeah.
But that was important. I don't know. Now you said that your science teacher just grabbed you and said, "Come on, you're going to wrestle." Yeah. But in Millville, because of you and other people, we had a great feeder system through the mini wrestling program.
Yeah, I was very proud that we were able to push a lot of the kids that we coached. Nick and I coached together along with Will Goodwin, and we put a lot of varsity wrestlers. We tried to make Millville very successful, and they were.
And you did, yeah.
And they were.
Yeah. It's interesting. My brother-in-law, Bob Laughlin, his son, was a heavyweight, but he was great. I don't know if you've met the superintendent of schools in Millville, Tony Trongone. He was a big wrestler. It's like a family. In fact, a lady friend of mine, her son was up, I think he went to Marlton or one of the high schools up there, one of the Indian high schools. He was a state wrestling champ or one of the finalists. And it's sort of like a really unique, tight-knit organization, and the respect and the admiration and the cooperation that you guys all give, it's really neat to see.
It's a very challenging sport, but it teaches you a lot of good life values: hard work, persistence, and how to deal with failure and overcome it, because we all lose matches that we wish we could have won, and you've got to figure it out and move on. So good life skills.
Who did you wrestle in Millville, do you remember? Who was your counterpart?
Rusty
Corson?
Corson.
Okay,
Yeah.
I know Russ. I saw him just the other day.
Yeah.
In fact, that is interesting. You know, but what a competition.
Well, you pulled that one out of the past. I hadn't thought of Rusty
I just saw
in
him
50
at a
years.
Thunderbolt Club event
Yeah.
as well. But he was a coach at Millville.
Yeah.
I don't know if he coached wrestling, but he certainly coached football and other sports as well. And who was your science teacher? To cut you?
Mr. Guacharo.
Okay.
A wonderful, one of the best teachers I ever had.
Did he coach wrestling also? Or?
Yeah, he was really a football player, and had been a football player at the collegiate level. I think he got drafted, but he was a lineman, and like a lot of linemen, his knees didn't last, so he ended up going into education.
I see.
So he didn't know a lot of wrestling, but he had he understood sports, he understood competition, and was just a wonderful person and a coach.
Well, and you had Lumberhead. You had Tony DiTomo as your head coach, right?
And Tony was a good motivator. Again, he didn't know how to wrestle, but he understood conditioning, he understood desire, he understood winning, and he was a tough taskmaster.
He was. I loved Tony, and I did Millville football since 1969, and every other year, obviously, you'd have to go to Vineland, and Tony became the athletic director. So I would call him and make arrangements to go. Okay, Quinn. And I'd get there. He says, "You never called me." I said, "I did, Tony. Honest, I called you." But he was a really good guy, and as you said, he had the motivational skills to be able to do. Did you ever remember Bob Hogan from the?
Oh God, yes, I knew Bob very well.
Yeah, he was.
Bob was he was a wrestler.
Yes,
and
right. Yeah.
I don't remember if he was 1 or 2 times state champ for
at least.
Millville.
Yeah. He wrestled lightweight also.
But when
he was older than you though.
When I was in college, I came back for like Christmas break or something. And I don't remember, because I would have gone to Vineland. I don't know how I got in a practice. Might have been a joint practice. And Coach Hogan wanted to wrestle me.
Oh, did he really?
Yeah. No, so I'm probably 20 years old, and he's probably in his 40s.
Yeah.
But he still had some skills.
It's like Ed Salmon. Do you remember hearing of him from basketball?
Yeah.
Ed still plays at 80 years old. He still plays basketball. Yeah, we do a program on him. He's an amazing guy. And Bob was a great guy. Bob also coached football with Tony Cerise. He was one of the defensive coordinators. And so it is interesting, though, isn't it, how sports brings you together, and you have lifelong friendships from that, I'm sure.
No, it's a tight-knit community, the wrestling community.
Yeah, it really is. And boy, I tell you what, it's all on you. There's nobody you got to do it yourself. You got to work hard at it. And I tell you what, though, you look great. And we were talking before we went on the air. I said, tell everybody how you stay in such great shape.
Well, what I was saying is I have what I call a gentleman's farm. So farming chores, primarily horses. So every morning I get up, I got to muck the stalls, I got to feed the horses, I got to lift the bales of hay, I got to groom the corrals. Wow. So that gets my motor running every day. So,
does Noelle help you, or is it all her horses there?
Well, Noelle will feed the grain and do things. But we all, you've caught me at the tail end of my career in life, so the horses are pets now. No one's riding them anymore. They've earned their keep.
I see. But Noelle Haruza was his wife's maiden name.
Yep.
How many years have you been married now, Serge?
Oh, goodness. 53.
Wow, congratulations. That's fantastic. Yeah, I knew Noelle. Of course, when we start talking about the company, my father used to bring back phosphate, I think it was, from Philadelphia.
He did trucking for us.
Yeah, it was interesting because Dad would take sand up to, like, Philadelphia, Philadelphia Paint Company, for instance, and then I would go with him, and then we'd go over to another place and pick up the phosphate, bring it back. So for Dad, it was great. He had a load up and a load back, so it was like, and of course Herb Sanders was the man that I remembered as a young boy. And everybody there was so nice, and we talked about
thank you.
Sylvia Maxfield, and it was like family. Well, it was family in a lot of ways, wasn't it?
Yeah, one of the things that's unique about us, and maybe unique to a lot of family companies, is length of service. So Sylvia worked for us for 46 years.
Wow. I had a crush on Sylvia, folks. I was 10 years old.
But I think, and I don't know what it is now, but our average length of service is around 17 years. So
that's good in this day and age.
Yeah, it is. And so we're very proud of our employees, and they're very loyal, and they're the key to our success.
Yeah. Now, how many employees do you have, Serge?
We have around 50.
Oh, that's good.
There you go.
When I was hanging out there, I think you had 10 maybe at the most.
No, the company's grown, and we have exciting news that you may not be aware of, but we are in the process of constructing our first off-site manufacturing facility. So in Higgins, Pennsylvania, we're constructing a fertilizer plant to provide raw materials to the Millville plant.
Oh, wow. That is neat. Where is Hagen?
About 30 miles northeast of Harrisburg.
Okay, so it's a ways.
We wanted to locate near Lancaster County because that's one of the nation's largest egg-producing counties in the country. So if you have eggs, you have poultry manure, and if you have manure, you have fertilizer. Yeah. So we'll have a dehydrating plant in close to them, and get back to our roots, because the company you remember.
Right.
That's when the poultry industry was big in South Jersey, and there was raw material here.
I worked on a George Wass's poultry farm right across the street from my house. Yeah. I grew up, Serge was talking about remembering the area, and I actually grew up just this side of Canals Liquor on Delsey Drive in front of Walmart, and I worked across the street on George Wass's chicken farm. And you're right, they were all over at that time. Chicken coops everywhere, Doug Levinas. I mean, I knew a whole bunch of people and families that had the chicken farms.
Exactly. And so we had our own dehydrating plant. But then, as you know, the industry moved away. Yeah. Right. So when it relocated away, we had to truck in the manure. We were lucky; we were able to get it from Delmarva. But then, about 6-7 years ago, they retired that plant. They stopped producing manure for organic plant foods. So then we had to get manure out of Wisconsin, out of Ohio, out of upper New York State. Wow. So our freight costs went sky high. And then, so 6-7 years ago, we get notice that they're going to discontinue their operation. We find other suppliers. Then our key supplier, about 3 years ago, burned down.
Oh.
So that's when my son, who's now the president and CEO of the company, said, why don't we look into getting back to our roots, having our own facility so we're not dependent on third parties and can have a key ingredient assured. So we looked into it and decided to go forward, and we're hoping at the end of this year that plant will be in operation.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah. That really is. I'll tell you what, folks, Hollytone was the number one
product. Still is.
And is that I know it's all over the United States.
Yeah,
right?
We're a national company now. I never thought we could do that. Yeah. It's funny. When our founder started the company, we were strictly New York, Philadelphia, and Washington, D.C. That defined our distribution area. And then with Dean, we grew it through New England to Virginia.
Wow.
Then when I joined it, we took it up and down the East Coast. And my vision was that because we're freight intensive, that the costs would get prohibitive. I thought we could stay east of the Mississippi. But then they deregulated trucking, and then with piggyback transportation with railroads, my son's taken us national.
I was going to ask you about that. You're close to the railroad, right?
Yeah.
Does it run through your property?
Yeah. But we don't do that
I see.
there.
Okay.
And they go. But so yeah, I never dreamed we could be a national company, and it's been
that's fantastic.
an exciting era to witness the growth of the company that way.
Well, we're going to take a commercial break, and when we come back from the commercial break, we're going to take a little tour of the Espoma plant that's nationwide. It's one of the finest fertilizer companies in the United States. In fact, I was with a friend the other day. She said, talk to Mr. Brunner about lemon tree. She has a lemon tree or something, some type of fertilizer or something goes with that. So they've got a great reputation and good people. You won't find any better than the Brunners and all the Sanders, the people that were there beforehand. So we'll be back with a commercial message, and then we'll take a little bit of a video tour. We'll be back in a moment.
At Mintz Insurance, we're proud to have been serving our customers for nearly 80 years, offering 30 different insurance products for your auto, home, and business. And to help ensure that you're getting the best rates possible, we give you up to 3 quotes for every policy, so you can choose what's right for you. At Mintz, we're part of the community. Local representatives, supporting events, and proud of it. It's part of who we are. Mintz Insurance. Call today and find out how we can help you save on insurance, or visit us at mintzinsurance.com.
In South Jersey, we do things our own way. We say things out loud, face things head on, and never back down. And that's how we fight cancer. With the most advanced diagnostics, leading-edge technology, and a team of doctors who know how to treat your cancer. And most importantly, we do it right here at the Frank and Edith Scarpa Cancer Center, Vineland, and the Leading Edge Cancer Center, Mullica Hill.
More than a century ago, General Tire was born, right here in America. Since then, we've made a name for ourselves by making tires you can depend on. Tires built to handle any road this country can throw at them, and relied on by every kind of driver. So you know that no matter where life takes you, with General Tire, anywhere is possible.
Imagine living without pain. For over 35 years, Doctors Beebe and Doyle have helped thousands of people find relief from all types of pain. Millville Chiropractic Center has 4 doctors on staff specializing in hands-on or light-touch, drug-free pain relief methods. The examination, x-rays, therapies, and adjustments are all performed at one location. Schedule a consultation today. Enjoy life without pain and discomfort. Millville Chiropractic Center, the area's #1 pain relief center.
the other part of, I don't know if you want to talk about.
We're back with Serge Brunner, and I hope you enjoyed seeing the process and what neat things go on at the Espoma Company. As a little boy, I would ride with my dad in the trucks, and I've been in there, and it was interesting. And during the break, Serge was telling me a really interesting story about Herb Sanders, who was the initial founder of the Espoma Company. Tell everybody about that. This is amazing.
Yes, it's a tribute to the community and to Herb. Herb Sanders was an entrepreneur, true entrepreneur, and he wanted to be his own boss, so he started the company. And he started it in 1929. And
right after the Depression, or
yeah, it was right at the beginning of the Depression.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
and he started it before there really was a lawn and garden industry. So the customers back then were landscapers and custodians and professional people. There really weren't garden centers or home depot type stores or anything like that. So it was subsistence. He was doing okay, and he was his own boss, but it wasn't anything to brag about much. But he operated in a building that had a leaky roof, and he wanted to fix that, and he finally could afford to put a brand new roof on. And in 1946, he put a brand new roof on, and the next day, that wooden building burned down.
Oh no! Yeah. Oh my God!
So it just broke his heart. So with the plant burned down, he went to his wife and he said, "Look, let's go to New York City. I want to weigh my options. I've been at this thing a long time now, and I think maybe it's time to try something else." And they were thinking of possibly moving to Florida, a little better climate. He had bad health, and the winters were hard on him. And he thought it might be time to try something different. And while he was there, well, let me back up. He was the first Board of Trade president, the precursor of what we call a Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah, I remember
so he
Board
was
of
active
Trade.
in the community. His son was active in the Boy Scouts. He knew Mr. Wheaton. He knew, and you're going to have to help me, from Millville Ironworks, Ted Kogel. Yeah. And they were close-knit, and he was socially active with them. So they're in New York City thinking about what they're going to do. Meanwhile, the community rallied. They didn't want to see the Espoma Company fail. So Millville Ironworks got together with Mr. Wheaton. Steel was hard to get after World War II. They got steel. They started erecting a new plant, a new facility to make the fertilizer. Meanwhile, they salvaged the steel equipment out of it, put it in the yard so that he could operate, get it, keep it running. The Boy Scouts got together and built him a temporary office.
Oh, that was nice.
Right. So when he came back and he saw what the community did, he said he was too embarrassed to quit. They forced him to continue, which was lucky for all the subsequent
that's for
generations.
Sure. Yeah.
So that's why we stayed in Millville.
Oh, thank God. Yeah, that's a great story. And what a nice man. I do remember, Mr. Sanders and Dean, and just really good people. Now, the business then was pretty small. I mean, I'd say, 10 employees or so? 10.
Yeah, it was probably around a dozen employees, primarily plant workers. Herb and his cousin, Herb Galloway, were the two salesmen. And Mr. Sanders always said he could sell hardware stores, and Mr. Galloway could sell landscapers, and they both couldn't do the opposite. So they formed a good team.
That's good.
There you go.
That worked out really well. As you look at what you've been able to do over the years, now when did you come in to play? When did you start with Espoma?
I started in 1977, and the company then was a lot different than what we've been describing, the beginnings of the company, because post-World War II, lawn and garden industry took off. And it took off because the soldiers were coming back. You had the Veterans Administration Act that helped with VA-backed mortgages for the soldiers.
Right, the homes, yeah.
Part of the requirement for the beginnings of suburbia was to get a mortgage, you had to have a certain amount of plants and a lawn in, or you couldn't get the mortgage.
Oh, that's neat.
So that forced the industry to develop because they had to go get this stuff from somewhere. So all of a sudden garden centers started sprouting up, and because we predated them, they knew to recommend our products to help, because everyone's like, okay, I buy a shrub, what do I do with it?
Yeah, how do
I stick it in a hole in the ground, but besides watering, what do I feed it?
Yeah.
And so that's how Espoma Plant Tone and Espoma Holly Tone got recommended. So we were in from the ground up. We really grew with the industry.
Wow. So I guess they came because of the Holly City. Is that how Holly Tone got its name?
Yeah. There's I find that at this stage of my career, I'm the storyteller. I'm the historian.
I'm glad you're here.
So another interesting story is, how do we get Holly Tone, which is our #1 product? Well, again, Herb Sanders was friends with Mr. Wolf, who had
Holly Farm.
Well, he had silica sand.
That's right, New Jersey silica. Yeah, my dad used to go there.
And he caught someone on his land right around Christmas time trespassing, cutting holly boughs off the holly trees. Right. And he said, "What are you doing?" And he said, "Well, I use them for decorations. I'm sorry to be trespassing, but that's what I'm doing." And he thought that was a terrific idea. And he wanted to have a token of appreciation for his customers. So he thought that he would get his employees to go in the woods and get some holly boughs so that he could send it at Christmas time as a thank you. Well, in order to have enough of this, he decided to start the orchard. So that's how American Holly Farm started. He wanted to grow hollies, and he went and stole the biology teacher from Millville High School, Dan Fenton.
Oh,
to
yeah,
be the
I knew
farm,
Dan.
Yeah,
no
to
kidding.
be the farm manager. Well, they got interested in. No one had a holly orchard before that. They started one of the country's first holly orchards. They were doing it by the seat of their pants. They got together with a Professor Denton from the University of Delaware, and Mr. Sanders, the professor from Delaware, Mr. Wolf, and Dan Fenton started the Holly Society of America.
Wow,
that's
neat.
why they've always met here in Millville.
Yeah.
This is where it all started. So the story goes, and this is from the horse's mouth from Mr. Sanders. He always told us, one night, he always kept a pad by his bed in case he had a good idea.
That's smart.
So one night he woke up and he wrote down something, and in the morning he turned to his wife and he asked her, he says, "What do you think of the name Holly Tone for a plant food to feed the holly trees?" And she liked it. Well, he ended up inventing the first acid-loving plant food. There were no plant-specific foods for that category, particularly hollies. So he went with the idea to Dan Fenton, and they worked together testing different kind of formulations to find one that satisfied Dan in his little test plots. And once they got something they thought worked, went to market with it. And that's the story of how Holly Tone came to be.
That is really neat, because that's all I ever heard of, Holly Tone, and that's like the best, and everybody loves
when you
product.
invent something, and this is Dean Sanders, who was my mentor and the son of Herb Sanders. We've done a lot of things. Herb started the company, and it was a two-product company. You had Plant Tone which was called Espoma Organic at that time.
Okay.
And then he had Holly Tone. Dean took the Tone formula and made a family of products. So then we had he renamed Espoma Organic Plant Tone because it was a general planting mix. He had Holly Tone, then he made Rose Tone, Tree Tone, Turf Tone. He made a family of products to satisfy the needs of the marketplace. Then I took it and expanded it into plant-specific products. So people wanted individual ingrents, bone meal, blood meal, phosphates, and this thing. Subsequent to my input, my son came and he said, "Dad, let's move into soils." And so we now make potting soils and container mixes and those kind of things. And also, I always said, the Espoma Company helps people grow things. We leave killing things to other people.
That's good.
But my son came to me and said, "Dad, you're wrong. We've got to help people solve their problems. So if they want to get rid of insects that are harming their plants or weeds that are invading their gardens, we have to have solutions. So let's modify your theory of killing things to doing things naturally, so that we have a line now of pesticides, but they're naturally based. So they're not the poisons that chemical pesticides are. So we've got a full line of solutions now for people who are into gardening.
Wow. And how many employees do you have? 50, you said?
Yeah.
And each department handles like the different, the natural pests?
Yeah, it's gratifying to see the growth of the company going from, Herb ran a kind of a one-man show, and then his son came in, and we grew the company larger. And it got to a point that he couldn't do it by himself, so I came in. We hired a sales manager, so now we have a sales department and marketing. We had to hire a plant manager because of manufacturing. So now we are truly a corporation with all the different departments, and we have the resources to be able to handle the demands that when you're a national supplier you need to have.
You're one of the largest in the United States, aren't you?
We're the largest organic plant food company.
Wow. And we talked about you're building a facility outside of Harrisburg. That's right. And you talked about the eggs, and the fertilizer from the eggs. That was an interesting job. I worked on that chicken farm when I was 14 and 15, 7 days a week, picking up the eggs. I didn't have to do the feeding, but the worst thing I hated about the chicken farm was the rats. Oh my goodness, they were running and the roosts all the time. But it was a job, and I always liked to work. Mr. Wass was a nice man.
You'd be amazed. I've visited modern egg producing factories, and they've industrialized it to the extent it's unbelievable, and it's clean. It's immaculate. It's a world different from the days of the small chicken farm with the chicken coops in the backyard of a house.
Yes, a lot of chicken manure there, and of course the rats weren't my favorites, but it was an interesting experience, and one that I think I've always had a great work ethic, as did my dad, and I know you and your family, the same thing. You just, you got to do. You have to do what you have to do. And I started there at 14, 15, went to Acme at 16. I actually started teaching school at 17. I graduated Millville High, and a week later I went to Glassboro State College. And I took 9 credits. In those days, Herb, you only needed 6 to substitute. So I'm substituting at 17 years old and 18, 19, and I became a full-time teacher. But I always loved to keep busy, and I'm sure you had the same thing. We haven't talked about your dad. What did your dad do?
My dad had nothing to do with the company or anything. He worked in the clothing industry.
Oh, did he?
You know, the work making military uniforms
Yeah, that was
in
Vineland.
Vineland.
Yeah,
he was the plant manager.
Oh, that's good.
And
so you got to see some good work ethic there too, I'm sure, as well.
But talking about work ethic, another subject that may be of some interest to your viewers, running a family business is challenging. I represented the third generation. Third generation is about 0.1% of companies ever make it to the third generation.
They don't make it that far.
So my son, representing the fourth generation, is even less than that. And we're grappling. So I call my son fourth generation, but I have 13 years between my son and my daughter. And my daughter's joined the company,
oh, that's nice.
So I call her 4.5. But my son's children, my granddaughter just graduated college, and she's getting her first job. And my grandson is in college now. He's a freshman.
He's the wrestler.
So it is certainly our hope and wish that they see the opportunities of joining the company. So what I've always told my son, especially just prior to making him president and CEO of Espoma in 2020, what I always used to, a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but not too much, I said, look, I got it to the fourth generation. And the reason so few companies ever make it to the fourth generation is that we're successful and the equity's there and the third generation cashes out. I said, I did not do that. I got it
I see what you're saying. Yeah, that's a good point.
So I'm challenging you to get it to the fifth generation.
And he's got his children ready to do that, right?
And
his
we're hoping.
kids,
We're hoping. Yeah. And I said, and if you sell it after I'm gone, I'll come back and haunt you.
Yeah.
That's it, exactly.
That is really neat, though. Wow, that's fabulous. Like you said, 4.5, then you're going to go 5.
You run a company differently when you expect and want it to go on.
Yeah, that's true.
You take a long-term view of everything. Yeah. So we don't do things. I think one of the keys to the success of the company is the reinvestment we've done. Witness the office building we're building. We're building a whole new raw material plant in Pennsylvania that I mentioned, and which represents the biggest investment we've ever done. And another thing that you may not realize, we started in 29. We're
coming up on 100 years old.
On 95-year anniversary.
Wow.
2024 represents our 95th anniversary. So longevity and succession within a family business, two hallmarks that not many companies get to enjoy, and we're very proud of that.
That's wonderful. It truly is. What a great success story, and you being the third generation to keep it going, and then Jeremy now as the president and CEO as the fourth generation, and the future's bright.
Another story that may be interesting to everyone is, how did we get to the third generation? Because as I mentioned, the family goes through my wife, and not through my family. So Noelle and I were married, and I had worked some summers at Espoma, but I had no intentions of coming back to Espoma.
Right.
I was doing my doctorate at University of Pennsylvania.
Oh, wow.
And my intentions were to become a college professor and a college wrestling coach. And I wanted to coach in the small Ivies.
Oh, that's cool, yeah.
Be like a Swarthmore or somewhere like that. And that was my intention. When you're going for a PhD and you want to become a professor, after you get that, you have to do what they call a postdoc. And my advisor, my professor who supervised my thesis work, his mentor and professor, was the head of the department at Harvard.
Wow.
Okay?
Wow.
So I thought, well, I went to Brown University. I did my doctorate at Penn. If I do my postdoc at Harvard, pretty impressive.
Very impressive, yeah.
Because you may remember in the 70s was a tough time to get a job. And you had to have really high credentials to be able to get a job. So I and 300 other people applied for that postdoc.
Oh, my goodness. Wow.
Well, I made the final cut, but I did not get the postdoc. And my fallback position was I did get one at Columbia University, which is not bad.
Right.
Except that, my wife, Noelle, is a South Jersey girl.
Yeah,
and
with her horses, she didn't want to go to Columbia.
She wanted no parts of New York City. So I knew that I would have to commute. We would have to get a place in North Jersey, and I would commute in the city. Well, at the same time that was going on, Dean Sanders, who was the son of the founder, was married, had no children. And he had been working for 25 years, and he went to his dad and said, I'm not going to work here and die in the traces. What's our plan?
Right.
What's the plan? And his dad said, well, what do you want the plan to be? Because Dean was running the company by then. He said, I think we're going to need to sell it.
Oh, wow.
And Herb said, whatever you think is fine with me. I mean, you work as long as you want, and when you're done, sell the company. To the surprise of everyone, Herb's wife, Noelle's grandmother, did not want to see the company sold. She wanted it to stay in the family. So she went to her husband and Dean and said, why don't you talk to Serge?
Oh, that's how you got roped
and
in.
See if he would be willing to come into the company. Well, when I didn't get the postdoc that I wanted, and knowing that I'd have to be fighting commuter traffic in and out of the city for a couple of years, and having my degree in my back pocket, I thought, worth a experiment.
Right.
I'll try it. So I tried it.
Years later, it didn't work,
and it worked out. So that's how we got to be in the family business. And Jeremy, who went to and took business, was the first person who actually kind of focused and thought, well, maybe I'd want to come in the business. And in his junior year of college, said, Dad, I think I'd like to come back and work at Espoma. Great. And what I told him, which is, I think, another part of the secrets of success of Espoma, because when I talked to Dean about coming in, and what he promised me was that he didn't promise me that I would take over Espoma because he didn't know if I could. He promised me the opportunity.
Right.
He said, if you can do it and show me that you can, then it will be. But if you can't, it won't. And that was what I told Jeremy. I said, Jeremy, I'd love you to come back and work at the company. But if you don't have the passion and the talent, you'll always have a job, but you'll never have my job. Well, he's
got
done,
your job now.
He's done
very well.
Better than I've ever done.
That's
so,
fantastic.
and that's the challenge in a family business.
Yeah.
You can't pass it on if they don't have the work ethic, the passion, and the talent, because the way I view things, too much sweat, blood, and tears have gone into it to let it fail.
Yeah.
You've got to do the right thing by the company.
Well, certainly the whole family has done the right thing by the company. One of the most successful companies, folks, in the city of Millville, no question about it. It's all over the United States and is one of the finest fertilizer companies you're ever going to find. And we'll be back to talk more about the Espoma Company, which is located right behind Lilliston, and I always call it Espoma Drive. I don't know what
it's Espoma Road. Yes.
Espoma Road, because I used to go there as a young teenager. In fact, I used to start driving truck for my dad, and I would go to the phosphate company and pick up and bring back and drop the loads there as well back when I was 17, 18, 19. We'll be back to talk more with Serge Brunner, who is the chairman of the board of the Espoma Company, right after these messages.
This whole line this whole line right here, Espoma, is an entire line of organic products. They've been around since 1929, and they have all these great soil products that you can use that are natural. So if you're going to grow a garden, if you're going to keep your lawn looking great, you don't need to use chemicals, and the stuff really works.
Wow. And is it more expensive, though, because it is organic?
It absolutely is more expensive, but you know what's in it. I mean, look, this, you know what's in here?
Chicken.
Chicken manure. 100%.
Makes me want to buy it.
Oh, my God.
I'm Brian Lankin, third-generation business owner, Al Shoes. Been at the same location since 1961, our 61st year. We specialize in work boots, work shoes, orthopedic shoes, baby walking shoes, and school shoes. We go up to a men's 17 and a woman's 13. It's $5 off, $25, and $10 off $100 if you mention that you've seen this.
The most important decisions a family can make are usually made around the kitchen table. At DeMarco Luisi Funeral Home, we believe pre-planning and the difficult decisions you face with the loss of a loved one should also be made around the comfort of a table, like a family. Our friendly, kind, and compassionate staff is committed to helping you get through this most difficult time. In your time of need, trust DeMarco Luisi Funeral Home, Vineland.
In Cumberland County, let's recycle right. We recycle cardboard, paper, aluminum, tin, and plastics number 1 and 2. Look for the 3-arrow triangle usually on the bottom of the plastic container. The number in the center determines the plastic number. Remember to recycle only number 1 and 2 plastics. Plastic bags, plastic film, hoses, and wires are not recyclable. They can damage sorting equipment and create hazardous working conditions. Don't trash our future. Do the right thing. Remember, reduce, reuse, and recycle.
Complete Care has some big news to share with you.
We're here opening more locations and offering more services every day,
including our newest locations on Pearl Street in Bridgeton and High Street in Millville.
We're here with convenient, high-quality, and accessible healthcare services all under one roof.
We're here just a call or email away.
We're here to provide compassionate care for you and your family.
We're here and we're ready when you are.
Complete Care Health Network, ready when you are.
Welcome back to Around South Jersey. My special guest is Serge Brunner, who is the chairman of the board of Espoma Company, and we were talking about Espoma Road, which is the road I always turned into, and of course you built this beautiful building back a little bit to the right of where I was going in. Espoma was on the left, and the building that you see there is on the right. But how did that come about with the name of the road?
Yeah, people ask, how do we get the name, the road? Well, and you may remember this, back in the early days, there wasn't even a second street. There was a high street.
That's right. It was a dirt road. Right. Yeah, because I lived on.
That's
on
right.
Delsey
So there was
Drive.
only a dirt road, but the company was small enough that was all that was needed. But as the company was growing, Mr. Sanders wanted to have a paved city road there.
Right.
And it was just a dirt driveway. And there was only 2 occupants back on that in that area.
Right.
It was the Espoma Company and Vineland Transit Mix.
Okay. Good.
Okay.
Good job.
So Herb went to the owner of Transit Mix and said, "Look, how about if I donate 25 feet and you donate 25 feet to the city of Millville, and we ask them to make a city road. They'll pave it, they'll maintain it, and we'll both have reliable access to our plants." Yeah. And I can't think of his name. It might pop in my head. But the owner of Transamix said, "I think that's brilliant, except I'm not donating anything.
Oh, wow.
If you want me to give 25 feet, you buy it.
Oh,
and then
geez.
you donate everything." And it must have stuck in his craw, but he did it. And Herb always said that when you donate the land, you get to name the road.
Okay.
So it became Espoma Road.
Instead of Vineland Transit Road. We don't want Vineland in Millville anyway.
That's it. So that's how it became Espoma Ready.
That is neat. It's unbelievable. So 1929 is when Espoma started, right?
That happened in the 50s.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, because I think it was big when I got there.
Jump, let's say 30 plus years, 30 to 40 years later, Vineland Transit still owns that land.
Oh, do they?
Yeah. But now I'm dealing with the son of the guy who would not donate an equal amount. And we wanted to acquire the land. And that land is where our new office is now sited.
Oh, that's nice.
And he was the same way as his father. He was cut from the same cloth. And it took me 10 years of negotiating before we ever were able to secure that deal. So Herb had his trauma with Transit Mix, and I had mine.
But eventually you both succeeded, which is fantastic. What a beautiful building. And the growth of 50 employees is fantastic. Great facility. And I'm really excited about you and Jeremy expanding into Pennsylvania. That is fabulous.
The thing that's most exciting to me is when Herb started the company, we were innovators. No one was doing what we were doing, and that's what let us take off and grow.
Yeah.
We were making an organic plant food, and we were making the plant food. When the poultry industry moved away and a lot of the agricultural suppliers moved away, we ended up becoming a batch plant. We were importing raw materials, mixing them to our formulas and making product. And that made us more vulnerable to competition because they could look at the ingredients. The right to know laws made us reveal our ingredient list, not our formulas, but our ingredient list. So we got a lot of copycats.
Oh, okay.
And now it became harder to differentiate ourselves, with the product in the bag. So superior service, better marketing, excellent packaging, that's how we separated ourselves from the competition. Also, we knew our markets better because we grew up with them.
Yeah.
But now with this plant in Pennsylvania, we've designed a plant. We've hired engineers to have the state-of-the-art in prilling. Most of ingredient organic plant foods today are pelleted. So they have a pellet mill that makes a extrusion, a tube, then they crack it, which is dusty, and it's not fertilizer grade material. We're going to make like BBs, small balls.
Neat. That's cool.
And with new binder technology and with new equipment, we're going to separate ourselves again. So innovation, I'm excited about the next 20 years.
Yeah.
We're going to be able to be leading the industry again as we once did. And that's what you need. You have to reinvent yourself.
That is cool.
And so it's exciting. And it's exciting to be able to tout what's in the bag, not just everything else that we do that makes us a better company to deal with.
Well, you mentioned something. I've always been impressed with the packaging. That holly tone, just the color, the white and the red and the green, it's just really neat. It grabs you. I don't know, I've watched Shark Tank and I hear them talk about packaging and how important it is, and you guys had that down a long time ago. That is...
we had... we have in our company, we have a display of the subtle changes in holly tone from its inception to today. And just like looking at old Coke bottles that have evolved, so have we evolved. And so when my son started having significant input in the company, one of the things he wanted to modernize the packaging. And we were like, you don't mess with a Coca-Cola bottle.
That's right.
But he did successfully modernize the packaging. And so they're the challenges of a legacy.
Yeah, it is something. I mean, think about it. 95 years coming up next year.
Yeah.
Wow. That's unbelievable. Well, Jim's lunches got you by 5 because they're 100 years.
There's no catching up with that.
But that's a different story with the food. You guys fertilize it, so we get great food, and certainly plants are phenomenal. And I was telling Serge, a friend of mine, she was saying to me, I told her Serge was coming on, she said, ask him about my lemon tree. I guess you have plant food for everything, huh? Is it a special?
Yeah, we have a citrus.
Okay, she did say that citrus.
The thing that amazes me, that's one of our newer products. The thing that amazed me is we sell as much citrus tone in Michigan as you would think in the South. You would think that's like something in more temperate climates.
Yeah.
But what's happened in gardening is a lot of people either have greenhouses or have a room in their home that you can make it as an indoor tree, so that you can take plants that don't belong in Michigan and successfully grow them.
Amazing. Wow. So how far do you go, all over the United States now, or to Mississippi?
and the thing that amazes me as a person who never thought we could cross the Mississippi, we even sell product in Hawaii.
Wow, that's amazing.
And in Puerto Rico and in the Caribbean.
That is really
we have
neat.
Distributors who take the product and move it.
That is. You get to go check up on those. It's nice places.
I've asked for the territory.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. Have you traveled much? You and Noel?
Yes. But, it's not a passion with us. And I've been to Europe. We all have our own peccadillos. And my feeling is I don't want to go to places that are too foreign. So, like Asia.
I know what you mean.
The food is different. The language is different. It makes it tougher.
Yeah, I like England and Ireland, at least the language. And Italy, they're the only 3 places I've been, but at least 2 of them, they all speak English. And it's nice to be able to have that. Yeah, I'm not into Asia it's just not something I would want to do either.
The thing that I've gotten into is in my early 50s, I took up golf. So I like to travel to good golf destinations.
Oh, that's neat.
And in hindsight, it's a good thing that I took up golf in my 50s, late in life, because golf is a very demanding sport if you want to play it well. And I'm of the temperament that I can't stand to do anything badly.
I could see that.
I have to
look at you, man. You're in great shape.
If I'm going to do something, I have to have a certain proficiency with it. And there's a story attributed to Hogan, who once said that, in reference to playing golf, that if you can't shoot in the 60s, you have no business playing golf.
Wow.
But if you can shoot in the 60s, you'll have no business.
So was Ben Hogan, yeah.
So it was good that I did not take up the sport until my son
until Jeremy was ready
to run the company.
My last question for you is: are you ready to get your membership at Mike Trout's golf course? He and Johnny Rugen.
I'm on the list.
I figured that.
I'm on the list.
Do you know John Rugen?
I do know John.
What a great guy. He's had great success also, and it's wonderful. I really appreciate you coming in, Serge. Thank you so much, and I'm so impressed with what you've been able to accomplish. And you're amazing. You really are an amazing person. I'm sure. I know your wife's a sweetheart, and Jeremy's doing a great job. And it's neat that family over all these years. 95 years next year. Wow. That is great.
Well, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for coming in. And keep up the good work, because Espoma Company puts Millville on the map all over the world, all over the country. Anyway.
I've always wanted to. I've never met Mike Trout.
Okay.
I've met his father.
Right.
I was a fan of his father. I thought his father was the best ball player to ever come out of the area.
Well, he was.
He never made it. Obviously, his son is gone. Anyway, so what we like to joke in the company is Holly Tone Okay, Mike Trout is the second most famous thing out of Millville.
Well, that's a good point. Got a funny story to tell you about Jeff Trout. I have Phillies season tickets. That's my passion. And about 10 years ago, before Mike, no, it was more than that, about 12 or 13 years ago, before Mike was even in the picture, Charlie Manuel and I got talking at a breakfast, and I said to him, "Do you know Jeff Trout?" "I sure do." He managed Jeff. Jeff made it to Double-A minor leagues with the Minnesota Twins. And he said to me at that time, and I've heard him say it publicly, Jeff Trout was one of the best hitters he ever had. So now you see why Mike's so good. That worked with him.
Well, I feel that his dad, whatever lessons he learned, that didn't held him back. He certainly helped his son.
Yeah, he did. They're
magnificent
great family. Well, it's like the Brunner family. Great family, good people, great success, and the number 2 most famous thing out of Millville after Hollington. Again, Serge, thanks, man.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in. My guest has been Serge Brunner, who is the chairman of the board of the Espoma Company, and of course, Jeremy, his son, is the president and CEO. And when you go to wherever you go, Latour Hardware, any place you go in our area, make sure you get your Hollytone products, because they are made in Millville, Cumberland County, and they are excellent, and they're known throughout the entire United States and even some of our different islands, including Hawaii and different islands that Serge had mentioned. So for George Kachia, my producer, I thank him. I thank Serge for being here with us, and I thank you for joining us on Around South Jersey. Have a good evening. Take care. Bye-bye.
This has been a QBC television production, in association with our partners and sponsors. QBC broadcasts on Comcast Cable Channel 22, and live streams its programming on Facebook and YouTube. All rights reserved by Quinn Media and QBC, programming that serves the South Jersey market.